Girl, who are you? If you're anything like me, you get to this place in life, often referred to as midlife, but I just like to say is our transition period where things kind of quiet down. There's not a whole lot of responsibility because a lot of the things you were once responsible for have moved on and are doing their own thing. And so we find ourselves in almost this gap, right? Of who are we? What are we supposed to be doing? And a lot of our own personal identity or the things that we identified as have changed. And so, how do we get ourselves back? How do we create our most authentic version of ourselves or our most authentic life? And that is one of the big things that I really enforce here in my community and teach and coach. And I really try to do my best to model. So, we're going to talk about that today, how to create your most authentic life. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Diane Parham. I am the creator of the Intermittent Fasting for Today's Aging Woman. It is a course on intermittent fasting and how we can use the mindset approach to change how it is we show up in our everyday life around food, and how that change right there can really have a huge impact on what we're going to talk about today, and that is creating our most authentic life and looking and feeling our best. We also have the Midlife Mindset Shift course and group coaching community. So if you're someone who really does thrive in a group coaching environment, I highly recommend you look into that and possibly joining us for that. We would love to have you. And I also just launched a new mindset approach, little mini course, which covers a lot of the topics that we do in this little series we're doing here, which is really designed to help you change some of the thoughts that you have in your brain so that you can, in fact, make some changes in your life. So like I said, today we are going to be talking about how to create your most authentic life. And for a lot of women in this transitional period of life, there are a lot of women who are really going through some big life transitions. And for a lot of women, the priority in our lives have been others. We've been raising kids, or maybe helping a spouse with his career, or maybe we've been really driving ourselves in our own career environment. And then things change and we're sitting here and we're like, what do we do? Who am I? What's going on in my life? And so a lot of the struggle, I believe, or a lot of the sticking points with not knowing who we are when things are changing around us really do come from our own internal barriers. So we're going to talk about those internal barriers today, because I believe once you identify and can understand the internal barriers, then a lot of the external barriers are so much easier to manage, because we're going to have our own back. So one of the big internal barriers that are holding so many women back in this transitional season of life is just really fear and this new sense that we have of being vulnerable, because we're out in this world now and a lot of us don't know what we're supposed to do next. And that is a very vulnerable position to be in. I know for myself, a lot of my identity over the past 20 some years has been that I have been someone's mom. You go to school events, you're someone's mom. You go to peer groups, you're someone's mom. Everything you're doing is you're someone else's something. And then your kids grow up and they become beautiful, independent, self-functioning human beings, which means we did a good job. And then we're not anybody's anything, or it feels like we're not anybody's anything, because we now have this new identity that is tied to us. And who are we and what do we do when we don't have PTA meetings to go to, or booster club meetings to go to, or sporting events that we go to cheer on, our kids? Like, what do we do with ourselves? So one of the things that I'm really doing in this season of my life is I am getting out. I'm getting out of my little circle. I'm doing everything I can to expose myself to outside groups of people, and really being in a community and having associations with other people. So one of the big things that I did this year was a personal goal of mine, and that was to register and participate in a 5K every month in the year of 2024. And I did that specifically so I would be in a position to be surrounded by like-minded people, because at a 5K, there are people who are actually doing what I had to do, and that's find the 5K, sign up for the 5K, pay for the 5K, get up early in the morning, drive to the place, and then participate in it. And just being around other people and seeing people who look like me, who are doing the same things that I was doing, really brought a sense of calm and some self-confidence back to me, because I got to see with my very own eyes that I am not, in fact, alone, that there are other people who are doing the same kind of things that I'm doing. Another thing that I just recently did is I have been a workout from home person We have a Peloton bike, we have a Peloton tread. I've done, DVD workouts from home for the past probably 20 years because I was a mom at home taking care of kids and I worked from home. And so it just made sense for me to be at home, but it was very isolating for me. And since my daughter just graduated from high school and that peer group has changed because now we're not on the sidelines cheering with other parents and our friends at sporting events and school events and all of those kind of things, I missed that social interaction. So we just joined a new gym that opened up in our neighborhood. And again, I did that very specifically to be around people in an environment where they have probably very similar interests to me. So I'm very specific about the time that I spend going to the gym. I'm very specific about participating in gym classes and not just going and doing my own workout because I want to be in an environment with other people. And again, what I'm finding is that I am not alone. There are a lot of women in my age group transitioning through the same changes that I'm transitioning through. And it really has helped ease a lot of that fear and that vulnerability feeling that I had thinking, oh my gosh, am I the only one that is feeling this? Am I the only one that's going through this? And I have had several conversations with women in the locker room and women in classes that I've been taking who are going through the same thing. If you are a woman who's feeling a little afraid or feeling a little vulnerable because what your identity was once wrapped around has moved on and grown up and doesn't need you anymore, and you have to find a new identity for yourself, I highly recommend finding some activities or hobbies that you enjoy participating in and go outside of what your norm is and see if you can find a group, a class, an organization that you can go physically participate in so that you can see and have conversations and maybe meet some women who are just like you. Another big internal barrier that is keeping women stuck in this I don't know who I am anymore kind of feeling is needing approval. Again, for a lot of us who are in that what I call mommy mode, and a lot of what we did was involved in our kids' activities or what our kids were doing, and now that is over. We don't have a place to get that "atta girl" or you did a great job or thanks for being here and helping out kind of recognition, especially if you were one of those moms who spent a lot of time in your kids' activities or in your kids' sports or even at their school volunteering, and then all of that goes away. We don't really have a place now to get that validation that we once had. And that's a very lonely feeling for a lot of us where it just one day it's there and one day it's gone. And so again, I think it's a great opportunity, a great time for us to go find our people. There are so many organizations that need volunteers. I know in our neighborhood, there is a food bank that my daughter and I used to go volunteer at together when we were in an organization to volunteer. And I miss that, right? I miss that interaction with people. I miss helping people. I miss having a place where I could go do something and I felt really good about it. So again, if you're feeling like you need some validation or just some personal feedback from yourself and approval about some things that you're doing for yourself, I highly recommend finding an organization or a group that you can volunteer in. I mean, there's Meals on Wheels, there's all kinds of food banks, there's shelters, there's boys and girls clubs, there's all kinds of things that you can do to go out and give of yourself and give yourself some of that approval that you're looking for. Again, we're not looking for that external approval. We're looking for that internal approval, something that makes us feel good about something that we're doing in our life. And a lot of times the best way to do that is when you're doing things for others. The third internal barrier that so many women are really struggling with, and again, anytime I say women, I'm including myself in that conversation, is self-doubt. And again, this just comes from the change in the roles that we are participating in today versus what we were doing maybe even just 5 years ago, or it can just be the titles that have changed or where we fit in our own identity. This is again where I like to set goals for myself. I like to be really busy. I like to serve others. And I like to make sure that I have activities where I can be around other people. Sitting at home, being bummed out and letting your thoughts kind of run rampant are probably the worst activities we can participate in if we're trying to get ourselves out of self-doubt. Another big thing that I am doing, and I have done, but I'm being very deliberate and making sure that I'm actually doing it and not just thinking about doing it today, is I like to expose myself to as much positivity as possible. And in today's world, that is something that we have to be very, very proactive about and actively seek out. The way I do that for myself is I always make sure that I have some sort of positive affirmation or personal development book that I have my hands on and my head in. I like to make sure that I'm exposing myself to positive people on the internet. Again, those are probably people who are very like-minded and are doing the things that either you aspire to do or maybe once did and want to get back into. So make sure the people that you're being exposed to and the things that you are being exposed to are going to be things that help improve your self-worth and your self-confidence, and really try to catch yourself when you're in that doubt mode. What are you doing that has gotten you there, and what kind of activities or what kind of things can you expose yourself to get out? The other big trick with eliminating self-doubt or reducing self-doubt is to make sure that the thoughts that you have going on in your brain are thoughts that are actually serving you. And if you tend to be a negative Nelly, that's where I tend to go with my thoughts a lot, is you have to learn how to catch the negative and change it to a positive. And that is exactly what the mindset approach is just being aware of where your thoughts are going. And if your thoughts aren't serving you and you tend to be a negative self-talker, it's really hard for a lot of people to recondition that brain and just absolutely eliminate self-doubt or negative self-talk. But if you can catch it and you can change that thought to a positive thought or an encouraging thought for yourself before it leads you into taking action into something that's going to result in something negative for yourself, then girlfriend, you are winning at the game of self-doubt. Just catch the thought, change the thought, and then go in the direction of the thought that's going to serve you. And then the last huge internal barrier that is really keeping women in a place where they're not quite sure who they are, or maybe even just who they're supposed to be in this second season of life, is perfectionism. We've talked about it a lot here on my channel. Perfectionism is just a fallacy. It doesn't exist. No one is perfect. There are a lot of people who like to present as perfect, but it's just not true. The best thing that you can do for yourself is really let go of perfectionism and just make sure you have your own back. Show up and do the best possible things for yourself and work on you first. I am a huge fan of being selfish first so that we can then be selfless for others from a full tank. When we are self-confident, when we are feeling like we are taking care of ourselves, when we are honoring our boundaries, when we are acting from a place of empowerment, then perfectionism or being perfect becomes very irrelevant, because we're just going to trust that we're doing our best, and our best is the best we can do. Keep showing up for yourself, keep being consistent, keeping honest with what it is you say that you really want for yourself, and keep going after that thing. Perfectionism will naturally fall away because you will be getting the things that you say that you really want for yourself, and that's all the proof that you need. So if you are a woman who is struggling with your own personal identity, like you don't recognize who you are anymore, you don't know what your role is supposed to be, a lot of times that is just the internal barriers that we have set up for ourselves. And I believe if we can get really clear on what these internal barriers are, we can decide that they're no longer working for us and we can change that. Then anything on the outside will be simple for us to manage, because we, again, will have our own back. Fear and being vulnerable, those are real things. Needing approval is a very real human thing. Self-doubt affects all of us, and perfectionism is just what has been modeled for us. And guess what? It doesn't even exist. If you can get a handle on those things, I promise you, the most authentic version of you and this most authentic life that you want to create will naturally start to fall into place. But again, this is proactive work. It's not going to happen on accident. And you, my friend, are the only one that can make it happen for you. So be selfish about it. Thanks so much for tuning in to part 4 of our Mindset Approach series today. As always, I'm going to ask you to please leave me a comment in the comment section. I do these videos to help build community and conversation here for us as women who are transitioning through these seasons of change in our life. I do believe we are better as a community. You do not have to go through this alone. So if you don't mind just saying hi in the comment section, I'll make sure that I get back to you and let you know that I see you and hear you. If you're interested in joining one of my upcoming courses, or you would like to join one of our coaching programs, all the information will be included for you in the description box below. I appreciate you taking some time to spend with me here today. Girlfriend, you deserve to look and feel your best and live your most authentic life. And the work that we do here in this community is designed to help you do that. Have a great rest of your day.